a multi-millionaire before
It was.
she went on to Breitbart and everything else. Yeah, so she's a very successful businesswoman before all this.
Craziness.
Yeah.
And if you have money, I don't know why you'd want to serve in government. Huh? Oh, sure. I have my phone. Is your window open? Yours? Yes, sir.
We on? You send me a picture? Welcome everyone to the Thursday, June 22nd, 2017 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. If everyone would make sure that your phones are off or silent so we don't have any interruptions. We have Schwinn Electric in front of us. They need to have a issuance of a negative declaration. So would somebody like to make a motion on that? That we issue a
What?
neg deck?
What are we issuing?
A neg deck for Schwinn Electric?
Mr. Chairman, I propose we issue a negative declaration for Schwinn Electric.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. You wanna read the first one then?
Okay, we have appeal number 2017-36, Georgica Green Ventures LLC, for variances to and/or relief from the provisions of Chapter 301, Section 141A12, where the proposed studio apartments are between 465 and 522 square feet, where the maximum permitted is 450 square feet. Chapter 301, Section 231E1, where the proposed backup aisles are 20 and 22.167 feet, where the minimum required is 24 feet. Chapter 301, Section 231E2, where the proposed single-striped parking stalls are 8.5 by 16 and 8.5 by 18 feet, where the minimum required is 10 by 20 feet. Chapter 301, Section 231E3, where a 20-foot width is proposed for two-way traffic, where the minimum required is 24 feet. And Chapter 301, Section 231M, where the proposed accessible parking stalls are 8 by 18 feet, where the minimum required is 10 by 20 feet.
Okay, are you attorney, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
David Gilmartin Jr. from the law firm Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, New York. And I'm representing the applicant, George Green Ventures. We also have Connie Sandro, who is associated with the application. George Green Ventures' primary business is the development of workforce housing. In their past, the principal has developed over 3,500 units of workforce housing. They are the contract vendee for 211 East Main Street and 31 McDermott Avenue. They've made application to the town board for a special permit to redevelop that site. The plan is to construct a new multi-use building, which will include housing, the workforce housing, commercial on the first floor, and a parking garage. The project's currently in the secret process with the town board, which has taken lead agency status, and this board is an involved agency in that process. The project has received approval from the Landmarks Preservation Board and the ARB. We're here tonight to ask for two variances which in the context of the project are really minor. One is, as you heard from the legal advertisement, variances to allow for an increase in the size of studio apartments, and variances to allow for relaxation of the size of parking spaces. With respect to the parking spaces, as part of this project, as we've moved around, the town board has asked us to maximize the parking on site. I believe the number is somewhere between 25 and 30 that we could have as of right, and we've proposed 58 would be the result if you were to grant us the variance that we could provide. So there's a significant increase in the number of parking spaces, and you should consider that application under the context that we're in the parking district, so we do not have to provide any parking whatsoever. So anecdotally, we have been told that there are some issues parking downtown, and we have expanded the parking as much as we could. We have an engineer that's done the plan. They have done the planning on several other affordable housing projects that Georgia Green Ventures has done, and this was the plan they came up with to maximize the parking. With respect to the studio apartments, there's an increase, and the increase is roughly 14%, and it's to the interior of the building. So there can't be any impact to the character of the neighborhood. You're looking at a building, there's no way that you can tell the size. The size will be beneficial to first of all, for marketing for Georgia Green Ventures, and then second of all, to the individual's comfort, who will be the ultimate person that rents it. So we would submit to you that there's no impact to the community based on the size of the units. There are no alternatives. We have a significant plan and a significant development. We are under several different jurisdictions that we have to satisfy in this process, and the studio apartments and their size are part of a mix. We have studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. So they're part of a mix that we are providing in that building, and it's subject to a lot of state regulation and county regulation. So there are no alternatives for us to change the size. Again, as I said before, the largest studio is 522 square feet in size. It's a 14% deviation from the code. I would submit to you that that's insignificant, and your board, pursuant to state law, has to consider the totality of the circumstances. In this particular case, the circumstances are such that it's in the interior of a building that's imperceptible to anybody who's outside the building. The only person that's going to notice the additional square footage is the tenant of that structure. The environmental conditions here, it's an interesting question. Again, I come back to the point that I made earlier, that in the context of the entire project, that these are minor variances, and I would submit that if they were considered on their own, they'd be type 2 variances. However, in the context of the larger project, we've been categorized as type 1, and we are going through the secret process with the town board. You're involved in that process, so you'll be bound by the determination that comes out of that process. But these variances, in and of themselves, as being minor, are not going to have an impact on the environmental conditions in the neighborhood. I guess the final prong of the test, you have to consider whether it's a self-created hardship, and in this case, it is a self-created hardship. It's the plan that we put together, but as this board well knows, that's not a determinative prong in this. So if we meet the other prongs, which I think we do fairly clearly, we can still see a way fit to approving the variance. We have approvals from the Suffolk County Planning Commission, and I would submit to your attention that you have granted this variance in at least one prior occasion. That was the Woolworth revitalization building. I'll offer that as evidence.
Bring it up. Sir, how many apartments are you proposing in the building?
118.
So 118 apartments, 25 parking stalls as of right, and you're asking for 58 parking stalls, which is basically half of the number of apartments that you're proposing, correct?
That's, actually, I was corrected, it's 116, we reduced it.
Sorry?
It's 116, I was corrected, we have reduced the size to accommodate some ARB comments. But we are providing 58.
Well, you're asking for 58.
We're asking for 58.
Yeah.
Counselor, do you have a conceptual site plan, other than a survey of the current property, that was presented to the planning board or the town board?
It was presented to the town board, and it's on file. The architect who is due to be here, I don't see him in the room yet, but there are conceptual site plans that have been provided.
And it indicates or depicts on the site plan the amount of parking spots you're looking for?
Yes.
Because I would like to, I would think the planner has looked at it. I have never seen any site plan, so.
None of us have.
The only thing I have is a survey, which is a start. And I would assume these parcels will be merged after you.
That's a requirement. that it be
Well,
merged.
I understand it's a requirement,
Yes,
but I'm
they will
assuming
be
that they
merged.
will be. So what's gonna happen with the front building?
Both buildings will be raised and a new building will be put up.
And it'll comprise the whole site?
Um,
Some of the building or the main
somewhere
part of the
around
building
90%.
Is the main part of the building to be on Main Street, or is it gonna be down by the river,
Well, it's gonna encompass
the whole thing?
Almost the 90% of the lot. The main entrance will be on McDermott, not on Main.
On McDermott, okay.
Yes.
In your testimony, did you say parking garage or parking lot?
It's, the lot comes down like that, so we'll have the opportunity to come in and put it underneath the building. So it'd be, a garage that's underneath the building.
And
So
it'll still
all
be
of the-
ground level. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Frank.
I'm sorry. So all of the parking is gonna be under the building? Correct?
Correct.
So, we're looking at an existing survey here?
I'm not sure what you're looking at. I do have a site plan that shows the parking laid out.
Yeah, we need to see that, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Even though the property is in the parking district, I don't understand why you would need a variance for parking
Yeah.
spaces inside a building. Maybe I'm missing something.
It's the size of the parking lot, so the code requires 10 by 20.
Size of the parking spaces.
So the size of the space, it doesn't.
But I don't see how they can control that inside a building. I don't know who controls that. What part of the statute says that to begin with?
My reading of the statute, there's no distinguishment between where the parking is with respect to the size. So it's the size of the particular space that we're asking relief for.
Size of the stall, which is laid out.
Yeah, it's 10 by 20, but I haven't seen a site plan. And they're looking for 8 by 10?
8 by, no, 8 by,
Not 10, it's gotta be 19 or 18.
yeah.
That affects your backup? The required backup space is
Yeah,
what,
that-
25 feet?
Yeah,
You
the
need
width,
22, I
that's
think?
affected, correct.
I mean, there's still not a parking, like, parking plan here.
That's what I'm saying, inside the building.
And this is really an inadequate presentation, if you really want to know the truth.
This is 5-story building, right? How many
That's correct.
stories, how many floors of parking are there?
One.
Well, why do you think I'm saying that? I don't get it.
Do you
So,
have a s-
we don't have the layout of the parking lot, underneath the building, which we should have.
We can provide that.
And,
Makes sense.
the 20, the required, aisle of 24 feet, and you're asking for a backup of 20 feet, 22 feet. An 8-foot, that's, and then you're looking at an 8-foot wide parking space. I mean, this is like jammed in like sardines, this is a really tight parking lot.
Again, we were directed to maximize the parking on site, come up with a plan
Yeah,
to maximize so that the So we mitigated any parking issues downtown. We have
Well-
engineers that have done this before, we've experienced this size parking and backup in aisles on other projects, and it works in the other projects.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it in other parts of the town, still has it, but it was pre-existing non-conforming parking lots.
Correct.
I'm just a little, legally, I'm a little,
This is for the tenants.
I should say, I'm
Right.
a little confused why they have you here for this, when you're inside a building and you're in a parking district.
Again.
Or you're doing it because they asked you to?
Yes.
Who's
Again,
they?
I
Town
come
board.
back to, we don't have to provide any parking. We've been told there are parking issues there. Please maximize the parking. So we presented this during that process, and we're brought
Okay,
here
but I still
to get
don't
the meeting.
understand under what section of the code they're dictating to you what size the parking spots need to be. What section of the code is that?
They've provided the sections of the code, I don't know that,
301,
I haven't memorized it,
231.
but I don't think there's any, the code doesn't distinguish between inside and outside.
Well, I would. I don't get why they would do that.
It says, it gives you the size,
I
it's
mean, of
301,
course-
231, and it gives you the degree, the size of the stalls, the aisles, and the degree angle. It's
No, he's in a parking district.
301, 231, E1.
Not required.
Really, but he's providing parking.
We are not
for his
required to
building.
provide any parking whatsoever.
That's
I
correct.
understand that, but to make it palatable to the community and to the town board and to the area that has quickly filled up with parking, it's a good thing what you're doing. I'm just pointing out that I don't think the statute is clear enough to dictate what goes on inside of a building or under a building as far as sizes of parking stalls. It doesn't distinguish that, you're absolutely correct,
Doesn't
Counselor.
distinguish, so the building inspector has determined we're subject to those limitations,
Oh, well then, okay.
so here we are.
Here we are. It wasn't a site plan reviewer, was it, or was it the building inspector?
It could have been both. They were both in the meeting.
Okay, I get it. So do I. Okay, well,
If the board wants another plan, we're happy to provide it. Again, if you come in with the as-of-right size, it reduces it by about 25 spaces.
Yeah.
Right.
But we could do that. I leave that to the board and
Yeah.
to the planning department about the best plan, but our charge was to maximize the parking. And that's what we tried to do, and that's what brought us
So-
here along with the size of the studio units.
I think we need to
So if
say-
there's 116 apartments, basically there's gonna be at least 116 cars additionally parked on the street if it wasn't for the cars, the
that's
parking
if
spots.
everybody conceptually has two vehicles. I mean, most people that live downtown don't have vehicles. but-
Don't have a vehicle?
No, I said most, but some people do have a lot of vehicles, yes.
Well, even if each apartment had one vehicle, that's 116
Yeah,
vehicles.
absolutely.
You know, so he's proposing 58 parking spaces, that is being very kind.
Only,
I think
only,
so.
Yeah.
only for the tenants though, it's not public parking.
Of course, well, yeah.
There'll be a restriction on the in and out.
It'll be gated, passcode. And how high is the building elevation-wise, street level?
You know, I don't have that information.
Okay.
The actual height of the building?
In other words, if I drove into the garage underneath the building, what's your height?
Oh, we just went through, I wanna say it's 18 feet. But we just went through that with the fire department.
That's where I was going with it. I wanted to see
About
what kind of apparatus will be available
yeah,
to get
we met
inside the
with-
building, plus it'll be sprinkled and
They've been
Yeah.
involved.
I'm quite sure they'll deal with it.
The fire marshal and the fire department
Yeah,
have
we
been
met with
involved.
them all.
So I'm just curious, you know, I'm just looking at the numbers here and, you know, the maximum permitted, square foot for each apartment is 450, right? Correct?
That's correct.
And you're proposing 465 and 522, so I don't know what that is, an average per per increase, what percentage is that? you're
Well,
asking?
the 522, the largest unit is 14% deviance
I'm
from.
just curious, that extra 14%, how many parking spaces does that translate to?
I would say that that extra reduces the parking because it reduces the number of units that we could have in the building.
Well, actually, it's making less of a square footage, so it might even potentially be increasing the number of apartments, correct?
I would,
It would increase the number, if anything, it would shrink the building a little bit, right? If you were going by the required apartment size, square footage.
or increase the number of units that we get. So if we take the square footage of the overage,
Yeah.
put that together and get another unit.
Just trying to help out that parking condition, I mean, downtown is a mess. I appreciate what you're doing, you're asking for 58 spots. I mean, unfortunately, that's only alleviating 50% of the problem, so,
It is a transit-oriented development that does have access to
Yeah.
public transportation between the bus and the train.
Yeah, of course, it's workforce housing, so it does depend on transportation.
We want them back, we don't want a new site plan.
I'd like to see a little more than this.
Yes, can we have a,
Dimensions, flow, parking flow,
Yeah.
gates in and out. This is not really telling me too much.
nothing?
I don't know, there's a lot to talk about, but I don't wanna drag it out either. I don't like
We'll
dragging
go
out
to
stuff.
the next meeting.
well, at the same time, ask what you ask now.
Oh, yeah. To bring to the next meeting.
Does your site plan address these parking spots? Was there an actual dimensions, parking flow?
Yes, there is a site plan that has been submitted, that has been reviewed by the planning department.
I thought, you,
You'll have to go to the
We
mic.
did not
Are
get
you a
one.
lawyer also?
no, I'm a consultant.
You'll have to go to the mic to be sworn out, you speak. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please state your name and address.
Connie Lissandro, 128 East Meadow Road, Maiden Hollow, New York.
Welcome.
To the best of my knowledge, we submitted about 25 site plans, and we were told that every department was gonna get one every board. So I apologize if you didn't get one. I can certainly, get one to you within the next day or two.
Do you have PDF?
Yeah, definitely, because all that is spelled out.
You could send the PDF to our secretary, Emily, and then
Probably
she'll
have
just.
it already.
Huh, excuse me?
She might have it.
I
already.
probably have PDFs.
Of the
Actually, I
whole-
can show you right on my computer.
Oh,
You could email it to me.
yeah.
It's a big file.
Yeah.
So, we'd like to see that,
Either way,
obviously.
let's
I mean,
take a look at it.
I personally appreciate you asking for 58 spots. I mean, when there's 116 apartments, you don't have to do that. So we just like to, we need to see more, that's all, yeah.
No, we realize it, I mean, I know
Yeah.
as a resident that parking's an issue downtown, and we certainly wanna be part of the solution, not be the problem. You know, and that's why we try to, maximize the space we have and get as many in there as possible. And it is tight, but people are gonna have to drive carefully.
Open their doors carefully, too.
Yeah, really.
I know I'm not parking in there, cause I hate door dings.
Everybody has to get out of their cars.
I go crazy if someone dings my car. If you
All
bird.
right, that's a good point. Is there anyone else to be heard on this matter? Yes, please, come forward.
Oh,
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address and pull the mic down so you're speaking into it more. Thank you.
I am Arlene DeRosca from 220 East Main Street in Riverhead.
The beautiful roses.
Thank
We
you.
love your roses.
I have two questions. The garage, is that going to be waterproof because of knowing of the storms that come up? And how many times I have gone up down McDermott Avenue and fed the swans when the waters come up that high? And number two, my question is, what about the traffic? How is it going to come up McDermott Avenue to 25, or is it going to go out Peconic Avenue?
Well, we have the same questions, and we needed a site plan to look at it, to at least review it. We don't have one. All we have is a very light conceptual plan and a survey.
Very light.
So, I believe their consulting engineer may have a site plan. However, the planning department staff review those items on the site plan, and they make their recommendations. And one of the recommendations is to ask us to give them relief for the size of the parking, and that's pretty much it.
Well,
But-
regarding the parking, if you have a big car or an SUV, and you're gonna open the door, you're gonna open it in somebody else's door, and you're gonna have trouble. And backing up, and trying to go to back up with that, losing that amount of space, is going to be difficult, especially for the elderly.
I mean, I agree with you, ma'am, but you gotta keep in mind too, those cars are not gonna be on the street. So that, those cars,
Yeah.
that they're able to get in there with those reduced parking spaces that in size, that's gonna create more parking spaces, which keeps more cars off the street. So there is a benefit to keeping the spaces that small. I mean, you know, we have to study the whole thing, obviously not coming to a decision tonight, but,
I think I'll stay on the corner of Maple and Main.
I'm sorry?
I say I'm gonna stay on the corner of Maple and Main. My husband, we bought that home in January 1933.
Only?
Wow,
It was built 1902.
God bless.
wow,
And it's beautiful, you
It
keep
looks
it in good
amazing.
shape.
very nice.
Is there anyone else to be heard?
Thank you.
Thank you. What's the first,
July 13th.
July 13th? We adjourn to July
We
13th.
want a copy for
Will
ourselves.
you bring us all the information we need?
Yes, and just,
I don't think the
just
board's
if I
gonna
could
do
just
us any good.
clarify.
Yeah.
Again, I think the last speaker's issues will be addressed in front of the town board in the special permit application.
Right.
That's where the site planning issues and all of the things that this board and the previous speaker were discussing, that's where that will all be hashed out. This is really focused on the size of the parking stalls and the size of the studio parking. And our architect just arrived with the parking plans, we can present that to you.
I'm sorry, sir?
We have the parking plans, our architect just arrived, that was in the same traffic you were.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I think he was in the same traffic you were on the.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So our architect is here, and we do have a copy of the plan.
Oh, well, great, we'd like to see it, yeah.
I think we
Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
Yeah, just bring it.
And the architect, Stephen Jacobs, is here to,
Same plans
he
as
can
the-
help answer any questions.
Take a look at the
Thank
switch.
you.
Those are the apartments.
That's the parking problem.
So this parking is it an underground lot, or is it at grade lot?
It's on grade.
It's on grade, okay.
Slightly below
Sorry,
grade.
we're gonna swear you in also.
Yes, okay.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Stephen Jacobs. I'm the president of the Stephen B. Jacobs Group, located at 381 Park Avenue South in the city of New York.
So you were talking about the lot is not below grade, it's at grade.
It's slightly, but, you know, we're on a very steep hill, and so we're coming in pretty downhill, and then as you drive in, it slopes very, very gently, but by the time it gets to where the ground floor is on Main Street, we are below that level.
So you're below grade at Main Street?
Yes.
Well, the elevation, there is two. I mean, that is a flood zone. But I was quite sure they would move all their vehicles somewhere else. And where would they park?
we have a small board tonight, and we have a lot to look at so far. Did anybody speak to you about the parking at Main being below grade? Did anybody have a problem with that? No?
No, I think that they're aware of that issue, the water issue,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, you know, we're talking about potentially cars underwater, you know, in a storm.
so actually, we are providing flood barriers, and we've taken that into consideration. And I think that even though in accordance with the zoning resolution, we are not required to provide any parking at all.
No, well, and I
We
said
made
before, I commend you for asking us for 58 spots,
And
'cause
the reason that we shrunk the spaces down a bit is because we wanted to get in as much parking as we possibly
Right.
could. And while if we had provided complying spaces, we would have had 37 cars. We actually are providing parking for 55 cars. And this parking space that we're proposing of 18 feet by 8 foot 6 wide is not an unusual size. It's a size that they're predominant. I mean, for example, in New York City, there are tens of thousands of parking garages with spaces of that size. And also, driving out here, which took us, by the way, we left at 4 o'clock. I made the observation to my partner, Jennifer Chuk, that 70 to 80% of the cars that are on the road today are, you know, they're called standard size, but
Compact,
they're really almost compact
intermediate.
size in that they are 6'2" by 18. 50% of the cars were probably less than 16 feet, you know? And I think it is an appropriate thing, to provide a few compact spaces. Very, very many jurisdictions are just beginning to catch up to the fact that cars are smaller.
So, I see 55 spots, including 2 handicaps and 1 van. Why
That's
are we
correct.
looking at that when it's saying 58 in the original presentation?
55 plus the 360.
It's,
Well, it says 52 standard parking spaces on this plan.
excuse me. Let me refer to my notes.
It's dated today also.
No totals here on the sheet that I was given. Yes, so we have 55 spaces. That's the total number of stalls provided.
So 52 standard parking spaces,
52 standard.
okay. Oh, we were talking about 58 a couple minutes ago.
Did I say 58?
Counselor did.
Oh, I'm sorry. But usually that would come from me at my age, I get confused.
That's a daily event for me. Which one would you like, sir?
This one.
Would you want the board that just came in?
No, he wants the full, that's this one here.
So the breakdown is 52, 2 ADA spaces and 1 van. 52 standard, 2 ADA spaces and 1 van.
Total 58, this was dated
For a total of 55 spaces.
September of 16. This is dated today, and you're showing less spaces. It's all right, I mean, people,
Oh, I know why.
It happens.
We had to make a change because of ARB.
all. I don't have a problem with this at all.
We're gonna adjourn it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get a plan back that's gonna have all the correct numbers on it, right, is that right?
The one that was submitted today has the correct number.
Okay, but we'll get our own version copy?
Yes, but we will resubmit whatever
Okay.
you require.
Not a problem.
We're gonna hold this over for the next meeting when the board is full, and we'll be able to digest some of this stuff. You are only asking for a couple of things, and the point is you don't need to provide parking at all,
That's,
Yeah.
okay?
And
So,
And I commend you trying to get as many parking spaces in there as possible.
July
That's my
13th.
personal opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else? We get everyone? All right, somebody make a motion?
Yes,
Adjourn
Mr.
July 13th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that appeal number 2017-36 be adjourned to July 13th.
Barnes, second.
Second.
Seabrook,
Aye.
Mr. Barnes,
Aye.
and I vote aye, so we'll see you July 13th.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have to leave New York earlier than 4 o'clock to
Do you
get
want
out
your
here.
boards back? Yeah, you should take it. The only thing I had was a survey. This is part of my file, so. Your dad's still alive. Oh, God bless him. I knew. My wife used to work in the legislature, and she was the recording secretary. But I know he worked at the NSC. Nice seeing you. You too.
All right, Emily?
Go ready for the next one?
Yes, please.
Okay, next we have appeal number 2017-38 for Cynthia Garuba of 790 Sound Shore Road, Riverhead, for variances to and/or relief from the provisions of Chapter 301, Section 11, where the constructed addition has a front yard setback of 19.7 feet, where the minimum required is 20 feet as per previously granted relief, or 50 feet by code.
Attorney,
Yes, ma'am.
please state your name and address.
Right, James Winkler, 1201 Route 112, Port Jefferson Station, New York.
We have studied this application in
Yes.
detail.
Good.
And are you gonna add anything new other than what?
I'm not going to add anything new. I think it's pretty obvious what the application is, except to point out that the less than 4-inch deviation from the original variance only traverses about another 3 or 4 inches of the property line because the garage is built on an incline. It's less than a 4-inch request, obviously.
Okay. Is anyone else to be heard on this? All right, who's got this reading? Get the mailings?
What's that, Emily?
Go get them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the determination of Cynthia Garuba, 790 Sound Shore Road, Riverhead, for the appeal for variances and to and or relief from the provisions of Chapter 301, Section 11, where the constructed addition has a front yard setback at 19.7 feet, where the minimum required is 20 feet as per previously granted relief, or 50 feet by code, be granted in accordance with the applications and sketches with amendments thereto, if any, as filed with the building inspector.
Second.
Mr. Seabrook.
Aye.
Mr. Barnes.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So your variance has been granted. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have appeal number 2017-40 for Seth Walker Greenleaf Solar, 11 Hidden Pond Path, Wading River, for variances to and/or relief from the provisions of Chapter 301, Section 29A1C, where the proposed accessory ground mount solar PV system is 3 feet from the property line where the minimum required is 20 feet, and is 28 feet from a side street line where the minimum required is 60 feet.
Hi, good evening. I'm Nicholas Waitert. I'm the
Please raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear that you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address,
My name is Nicholas Waitert. My address is 155 Shore Road, Mount Sinai, New York.
and tell us what you're seeking from the board.
A variance for the location of a ground-mounted solar array. As you can see, you have the survey in front of you. As you can see, the proposed location of the ground mount is along the rear property border of the homeowner's residence. He chose to go with a ground-mounted array due to the fact that his
acceptable for solar. And he also wants to use it along the back edge of the property, primarily because that's the ideal point of exposure, because it's due south, and it won't be shaded by the other installations that he has in his yards, such as his pool and his gazebo, which also have required setbacks. And thirdly, he wants to utilize it as a sort of privacy fence edging across the back property line. That being said, aside from the variance, everything will be done in accordance with all the building codes and all the solar codes. I realize that the setback requirements are not specific to solar in that they're designed primarily for structures such as sheds and things of that nature. And in the case of a solar array, it makes very little sense to have an array in the middle of your yard because of how it would chop the yard as well as how it would encroach upon the pool. So the homeowner wishes to put it across his rear property line because of exposure and to keep it out of the center of the yard essentially.
Is this up already? Has this been installed yet?
No, that's not.
So coming in 20 feet is, it's not acceptable to the homeowner and yourself?
It's not acceptable to the homeowner partially because it would encroach very close to his pool area, and secondarily because he would like to have it as far back his property line as possible to maximize his yard space and to use it as a sort of privacy barrier along his rear property line.
There's a fence going across the property line, is that correct?
Yes,
How tall is the fence?
the fence is 6 feet currently.
And are the solar panels gonna be higher than a 6-foot fence?
The solar panels are on an adjusted mounting plane, so that means if they are mounted at 40 degrees, which is what we're proposing, but it's, as I said, adjustable, with 1 foot clearance from the bottom of the array, the top rear height would be 7 feet, but it's adjustable as well to lower to 35 degrees, and at 35 degrees, with the same, with 8-inch barrier from the bottom of the property, it would be at exactly 6 feet, so it'd be continuous with the fence.
I'm sorry, so there are some portions of the fence that are gonna, of the solar arrays that are gonna be 7 feet tall?
The rear portion, so if it's at an angle like this.
Right.
Or if they just,
So,
But it's adjustable, as I mentioned.
I don't remember what, kind of fence they had there currently.
It's a chain link fence, I believe.
Chain link fence. Okay. So just by chance, is the neighbor behind them? Yeah. Here, okay, before you get them to come up. So basically, they're gonna see a foot
If-
above the fence of
If it's-
the solar arrays
if
you're
it's
proposing.
at 40 degrees.
If it's at 40 degrees, correct. If it was at 35 degrees, then it would be flush with the fence.
But what is it gonna be?
It's adjustable, so the tilt can be manually adjusted. So the original proposed was to have it at 40 degrees because 40 degrees is the optimal induction angle for New York State because it matches our latitude. But that being said, so if it was mounted at 35 degrees, he would lose a little bit of induction. But that being said, it is adjustable, so to modify to 35 degrees and have it flush with the fence is a very viable option.
Yeah, but you're not installing a permanent, solar structure, it's adjustable is what you're saying?
It's a little bit technical. The feet themselves are permanent, and then it's on a single post, and that post can rotate. And as the post rotates, the pitch angle of the array changes. So it's feet, solid feet in the ground, with a continuous bar running across, which panels are mounted on. And as the bar is rotated, the angle of the panels can be adjusted. But typically, once it's adjusted to a certain point, it's not adjusted beyond that. So it can be adjusted by solar professionals at any point in time, but it's not the sort of thing where someone would go adjust the angle of their array, or a homeowner would be capable of doing that at their whim.
Is the homeowner here?
He's not.
He's not. So, you know, according to the survey, you're proposing to putting the solar arrays pretty much right on the property line.
2 feet from the property
2 feet
line.
from the property. So, being that is the north boundary, which does not interfere with solar, would it be asking too much for the homeowner to plant a row of arborvitaes or some kind of green, evergreen, in between the solar arrays and their rear property line, so that the property owner behind them doesn't have to see any visual impact of the solar arrays that are showing above the 6-foot fence?
Yeah, they would be very minimal to that, we discussed it already, and they're open to plantings. And as I understand, which I don't wanna speak for them, I believe they've actually already planted arborvitaes on the other side of the property line. That, as the homeowner told me, they're about 4 feet now, they grow roughly 2 feet per year, so within 2 years, they should be about 8 feet tall and blocking the view of the solar array. That being said, if you would like the homeowner on his property to plant arborvitaes behind the solar array, that's something that he would be very amenable to.
Okay, so I'd like to hear from the neighbor behind them, yeah.
Are you both gonna speak?
I might as well.
Well, we'll swear you both in.
Okay.
Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name individually and where you live.
Damon Gallo, 13 Diana Court, Wading River.
Megan Gallo, 13 Diana Court, Wading River.
All right.
Okay, so just a couple of things that I'd like to correct. First of all, the fence that's currently there right now, the chain link fence, is not a 6-foot fence, it's a 4-foot fence. I know that because I installed a pool last year and I had to make sure that all my stuff was to code. So it's over, the solar array that's gonna go up 7 feet is 3 feet above the fence that's already there.
Okay.
And it
Is that your fence or their fence?
I'm
That
not
rear
really
property,
100%
that rear property line, is that your fence or their
I'm
fence?
not really 100% sure,
It's
because you're
inside.
the original homeowners of the house, and it was there already. I wanna say, I think it's my fence.
No.
No, it's inside the property line
The
of the.
survey shows it inside the property.
Oh, so it's their fence.
It's their fence.
Okay, well, which is fine. So that was definitely something I wanted to correct. As far as I have a picture too, if you wanna see it,
Yeah,
of what
sure.
the array will look
Pictures.
like.
Yeah.
And what it will be from our vantage point is closer to our house than theirs, actually.
Okay.
If you'd like to see, and this was actually sent to me from my neighbor, I believe it came from them, it's something that they had done recently.
And this is half of what they're putting up on, what they're showing on this picture, and this is from our patio, where they're gonna be.
This is what,
And we just planted 3-foot arborvitaes, not knowing this was gonna happen, a while ago.
this is, and that looks
Couple
like
months
about
back.
32 panels I counted, they said they were doing 60 according to my homeowner, so I'm thinking double that.
Right.
So you're looking
That
for
doesn't look
their
like a privacy fence to me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the.
So, okay,
And the bottom line is, there's other places they could be putting these. They're saying there's not, they can. There's a whole side of the property, which I have another picture of, well, it's right here, along their side, that they could put them if there's not enough room on the roof, which we have other roofs in that area that have solar panels on them.
Yeah, there's a ton of houses in that
You have to
neighborhood
go to
that
the mic,
all-
Mr. Gallo.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's a ton of, houses in that area that all have solar on their roofs.
Yeah.
Now, where his is, maybe they'd have to go on the front. I don't know if maybe he doesn't wanna look at that on the front, but now he wants to put 3 feet from my property line. The only other thing I wanna say is that it's a 20-foot setback, he wants to go 3, that's a pretty substantial variance.
Yes, I agree totally.
Yeah.
So currently there's a 4-foot fence there?
Correct.
Okay.
Chain link, which you can see right through, obviously.
No privacy slats, and I'm sorry, I looked at this a while, I don't remember.
No, I
wanna
can show you
see
the
the
fence.
picture of the
Yeah,
fence?
no, yeah.
That's more than 100 feet.
110.
Okay, can I speak to the representative of the owner again?
15 by 110.
So minimally, you would need a 6-foot fence with privacy slots. And, from experience, I have a neighbor next door that has, I don't know, some kind of fast-growing evergreen. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's arborvitae, it might be hemlock or
Hemlock.
spruce or something. But this is growing like 2-3 feet a year. I would need to see some kind of approve, from our in-house here, from an agreement with my associates, some kind of fast-growing specimen of green evergreen. and you would have to move that, so a 6-foot fence with slats, and some kind of fast-growing evergreen that remains hardy in this climate zone, and you're looking at moving the array there, the solar array, at least, 5-7 feet off the property line there to give these evergreens a chance to grow. I don't know if my compadres agree with me or not, but this is a pretty significant negative impact on the rear neighbor.
Why can't they put them on the roof? Tell me again.
Because essentially, the 62 modules that are proposed in order to offset his electrical consumption are far more than would fit physically on his roof. So his goal is to have a total offset of his electricity, and say hypothetically he could fit 20 modules on his roof that only cover a third of his consumption. So it would really be kind of a negligible installation. And secondarily, as far as the side yard goes, the side yard is oriented east and west, and primary solar production is from a south-facing orientation. So for that reason, it needs to be facing in the direction that it is in order to achieve proper production.
Well, I mean, it's at the north border, so it's facing south.
Exactly.
Right.
But they mentioned was space along the east or west border of the property boundary, and my only point was that they wouldn't get nearly as high production because it wouldn't be south-facing.
I don't know, I don't think I can live with this, honestly.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
trying
it's
to
a
work,
bunch of
I'm trying to,
crap.
you're looking at a
Like you're saying.
44.7 foot distance from the rear property line to the pool. And you wanna put this right on the fence, right on the fence. You're not offering any kind of, you're coming before us asking for the moon, really. I mean, you're not accommodating this negative impact on the owner at all.
Well, honestly, like I said, on behalf of the company, prior to the last week or so, when we posted the notification to all the homeowners, we were unaware that there would be any opposition to it from the
Well-
company's point of view. So that being said, we definitely would be open to a revised plan, saying it further back off, as you mentioned, perhaps 5 feet with a 6-foot privacy fence and planting the arborvitaes. But that being said, when the original plans were drafted up, before we had posted and mailed all the notifications to the residents, we were unaware of any potential opposition. So we were trying to maximize the space. But
Yeah, well, I mean, you have opposition on this, clearly on this board already, so.
So can you get us a new plan with the ideas that Mr. Seabrook put forth for July 13th?
we can do that. So
There needs to be some kind of buffer in between the solar array and the property line.
I have something to say.
Sure, go
Just-
ahead.
I would like to see you and the owner of the property talk to the Gallows, if they wanna talk to them, and see if they can compromise some way that's agreeable, and then you can come back with a plan, and they come back and they can support it, I could support it. Okay?
okay, again,
Is
this
that fair enough? Because I'd rather see the owner here
Mhm.
and not a representative. I mean, the guy trying to maximize and save his money, that's great, but I do the same thing. And as a homeowner, I don't like solar panels on my roof, and I would never put them on my roof. And he may feel the same way, and that's why it's winding up in the back. That's all let's be
Yeah, I
realistic.
understand, and I'm here because I'm the system engineer, and so with him not being available, I figured I'd be able to best.
Well, you
kind of
thought it was
describe
gonna be a no-brainer, but sometimes, you gotta talk to the neighbors and say, how do you feel about what I'm doing? And those things could be worked out.
Mhm.
So see if you can work them out, take their phone number and talk to them and,
As I understand, and I haven't spoken with either of you, that both neighbors have had some dialogue back and forth about it. I don't know,
Once we got the letter, we approached them.
okay.
so I don't know the specifics of.
Well, let's see if the dialogue continues, and we'll put it off to when?
July 13th. So you're acceptable for adjournment to July 13th?
Yes, I guess my only question would be, what, aside from having a conversation with them, in terms of a general guideline, the 6-foot privacy fence, the planting of arborvitaes, and say a 5-foot setback would that be kind of a good
Well,
baseline?
you know, these are suggestions that I made, but I think ultimately, your rear neighbor, and, you know, whatever dialogue the owner, your, you know, the person that hired you and their neighbor come to, I'd like to hear that. But I think what you're proposing now is.
We know that.
Yeah.
And if they decide and they can come up with an agreement, I would like the owner here,
Okay,
that, on the 13th. Okay?
okay. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move,
Wait a minute, is there anyone else to be heard on this matter? Okay, go, Leroy.
I move that appeal, 17-40 be, adjourned to July 13th.
Second.
Mr. Barnes?
Aye.
Mr. Seaver?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so you're adjourned to July 13th,
Okay, thank you.
okay? Look at also skip laurels for the growth, because they grow in the shade.
You
And they
stop
grow
selling them, what do you have, stock in those things?
2 feet at a time, and they stay shiny all day long, all year long. I don't sell, I'm in the food
Yeah,
business.
they attract ticks.
No, they don't. Leroy, you gotta be serious, just serious.
I'm serious.
I don't know what my neighbor has, but he planted these about 6-7 years ago at like 3 feet tall. And they're like 15 feet tall now, and
Could
it's
be-
beautiful. It's like a wall of green, you know?
Hemlocks or.
Yeah, they're either hemlocks or some kind of spruce,
We have anything else?
cypresses, but
Do you have any
maybe some
minutes
type of,
that we
yeah.
need to
No, but they're not like skinny like,
Emily?
this is
We
like
have anything
really
else?
thick,
Minutes, right?
really hardy in the winter too, you know, like, you can't see through them
You
at
wanna
all.
approve make a motion to approve the minutes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the last board meeting of
June 8th.
June 8th, thank you.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to close?
I make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks for speaking.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Just, one question. Are there documentation you have here?
I'll see you at the library.
Not union manager.
So what do you think?
Oh, are you? You come for a brew?
Oh, okay.
Get the front door out. Your daughter?
He still works there, she just had something
Part
else
of the
to say.
college scholarship program.
Comes all the time. From Long Island, so I gotta.
I bet you she's fast as a rabbit. She's like in the other kids. Hmm?